welcome back to Highlander Heart. I'm Grant.
I'm Rob.
I'm Joe.
And we are three Highlander fans here just to bring you hopefully new and exciting aspects of Highlander or stories about Highlander, or just we're just going to talk about Highlander whether you want to watch it or not. Every show we're going to pick a topic, and the last show was great, guys. Did you? I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was fab.
Oh yeah, lots of fun.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, it was great. We had John Mosby on, so we talked about the reboot. We figured that was the best way to start the ball rolling, and there were some interesting ideas for sure. I opened up a little poll on the Facebook group to see what people thought of our ideas. Everyone was very upset they couldn't give us their own, but if we did that, we'd have been here till like next year. And of everybody that we chose, that they chose, for MacLeod was overwhelmingly in favor of an unknown, which I kind of like. Yes. I like that idea. Kind of like the Superman approach, where you pick an unknown for your main character, and then you kind of up the game with your mentor and your villain. So maybe that's something for the future, which is pretty cool. Ramirez was a given, right? I think we all knew that. Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's not who I picked.
No, I know. But Antonio Banderas, that was kind of what everybody went for.
That's fair.
That's been in people's minds for a long time. It's hard to get that out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so firmly cemented in there now. But he just seemed like the perfect one. And most hilariously, for the Kurgan, everyone voted for Clancy Brown to just come back.
I mean, why not?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, although we had a couple of votes, Schwarzenegger didn't get picked. So I'm sorry about that, Joe.
I am shocked.
Well, not as shocked as I was when we received this clip.
Hey, it's better to burn out than to fade away.
How amazing was that? I like Schwarzenegger. I mean, seriously, definitely Schwarzenegger, and not me doing a Facebook program. That was amazing.
You say amazing, I say unnerving, but Hey.
Yeah, I'm still worried. I'm still planning on therapy after the whole lockdown and corona thing's done. I need that.
Yeah, I thought it was relatively convincing, or maybe not. Sorry. But you know what? Actually, that wasn't the coolest thing that happened. Certainly not to me this week, anyway. The coolest thing that happened to me this week, beyond question, was this moment. Cue the flashback. So, this morning I received this.
Ooh, that's a mighty impressive package.
Well, thank you. Indeed. Not heard that for a while. Right, let's...
Well, you're a married man. Of course you haven't.
Exactly. I probably should have tried to open this earlier, but then you told me not to, so I didn't.
Well, I wanted to do an unboxing video, so.
But instead, what people got was a man struggling with a pair of scissors. And
hey, that's still more entertaining than the board game episode we did.
Like a magician.
Yeah, there's lots of hankies coming out of that. I don't know where they're coming from.
I'm in.
Yes.
Ooh.
I wonder what it can be.
Well, it's not animated series Panini stickers.
Well, no. Funnily enough, I knew you were going to think it was that, which is why it was perfect.
I'm turning it that way. No, yeah,
It
sorry.
was just something that had lying around.
Audio is working. Like, just, well, hey, that's amazing. It's just like,
just before you get mad or get excited, don't touch the blade with your hands. It's a real sword.
oh my God, really? Like an actual.
Yeah, an actual real sword. Well, basically, this is what they call the mentor katana.
Uh-huh.
And it's made by the good fellows at Texas Steel Props and Replicas, who have the license to make Highlander swords. They actually have had access, or do have access to the original molds from the original swords that were used, and have making high-end replicas. But you can have any blade you want on it, from a cheap stainless steel blade to an expensive folded steel blade, or anything you want, basically. Trust me, it wasn't just altruistic. It wasn't just for your benefit. Because I now have another one. And these are identical.
I'm not showing this on the on the YouTube. Oh,
We are now brothers in arms.
We are. To be honest, I'm still quite speechless about this. Rob, look, here it is. How beautiful is this? Something
It's pretty. There's
just a bit.
There's an aesthetic to it that's classic, and the lines.
Yeah, and just absolutely gorgeous. I've yearned for this like most of my life, which is crazy to say about like a physical thing, but sorry, I'll put it down.
Don't hurt yourself.
Laid up. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I'm just
etiquette and all that.
No, I know. You still got to teach me how to take perfect care of him. I'm not really sure what it is. I don't know. It's a bit weird. But thank you a huge amount for that. So let's get on with it. So this show, we are going to talk about something that I first covered in this little tome about 24 years ago, showing my age, which are the cut scenes from Highlander, which unfortunately are gone, never to be seen again. And when I was trying to think who we should get on for this, in my mind, there was only one person, really. We need somebody on here who knows what they're talking about, because, we're just a bunch of amateurs compared to this guy. So with that in mind, I would love to introduce everybody to Kareem Michael Dimashkie. Kareem, how are you?
Hey guys, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, welcome.
It's a pleasure to have you on. So do you want to tell people why you're here? Who are you?
Sure. I'm the director of new media for Davis-Panzer Productions. Basically, when anything new comes in terms of like merchandising, licensing, scripts, anything creative for Highlander, I vet it first. I'm kind of like the gatekeeper. And yeah, so that's it in a nutshell, basically. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. And of course, you have a background, as we all do, with sort of Highlander fandom too, right?
Yeah. I got into Highlander when I was 12 or 13. And ever since then, I've been it's never left. I always followed it. And then when I got the opportunity in 2015 to work at Davis-Panzer, you know, I took it right away, and started working with Peter Davis and, you know, David Abramowitz, and it's a dream come true. I mean, the whole thing's been amazing. Plus, getting me people like you and Rob. I don't think I met Joe at the convention 2 years ago, but definitely met Rob and Grant, and it was like, you know, just feeling the buzz like 24/7 for 3 days. It's like all these people that you have this connection with because you love something, you know, so much. So it was great. Instant friends. So
Absolutely. Oh, we go on about it all the time on the group and things like that. You know, the whole thing, it had a very family kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And it felt like that. I mean, like I say, you know, Joe, Rob and I met Joe at the first convention we ever went to, which was in Denver in '96. And
Gathering 3.
oh yeah.
And we're all much hairier since then. But it was, you know, we've been friends ever since. You know, and it's, you know, it's just, yeah, it's just one of those things. You kind of keep these kind of relationships, and it's fantastic. Cool. So okay, so let's look at this. I mean, they're kind of, I think, because the fact that nobody's seen these things has made them a kind of almost have a sort of sense of folklore about them. You know, these kind of almost magical moments of Highlander that we'll never get to see, but we all know exist because there's photos. And there's also other little bits and pieces that maybe we will get to see, and we'll get to them later. But first, so let's get into this with the first scene. Now, this is the scene that I think probably everybody knows more than the others, because it involves another immortal. So this is the Kurgan's fight with young Dol Kim. I mean, Kareem, do you want to sort of talk us through, like, kind of what you know about that scene?
I know the dialogue. I took some notes actually for this, so I can just run you guys through basically most of the scenes.
No, that'd be brilliant.
Just a little bit of background. About 2 or 3 years ago, I was in the Davis-Panzer archive, and they had 2 on-set photographers, one of which being David James, who went on to be one of the premier set photographers for huge movies, you know. So there was a old, very, very old binder. It's falling apart at the seams, and I opened it, and there were these really long, but they were basically photo proofs of a lot of his photography throughout the course of shooting during Highlander. And there was one shoot that just had all of the young Dol Kim Kurgan fight. So a lot of it's on our Facebook page, and some of it's on our Instagram, Highlander.official, by the way. And what I did was I scanned in those little photo proofs and I put them online, because it was the first time that I had seen the scene, like images or parts of the scenes, you know, beyond just like the stuff we saw like in the Highlander card game, which was like, you know, just the end of the scene. So I took the images and I paired it with an older draft of the Peter Bellwood and Larry Ferguson script. And basically what the scene is the Kurgan takes an elevator up to like the 40th floor. And when he gets off the elevator, he hides. And young Dol Kim comes around the hallway and sees what he thinks is the Kurgan. And he attacks, and it's a statue or a mannequin. And then the Kurgan comes out, and then like young Dol Kim like busts out with like 2, like I think it's like the short Japanese katana, like the wakizashi, I guess.
Wakizashi, yeah.
Yeah. And they fight through this like room of computers. And Kurgan's just like really aggressive, like just like with the fight with Cassidy, just going after him like really, really hard. You know, there's sparks flying mainly because of the swords, and he's hitting things. And they get to, I guess, like another room that's on the side of the building with these glass windows. And Kurgan says something like, you know, you fight like a woman, it's disgusting. And young Dol Kim drops his swords and like gets on his knees. And Kurgan's like, what are you doing? Like, pick up your sword. And young Dol Kim's like, you know, I'm tired of this. You know, I'm not going to beat you. And I guess young Dol Kim was 400 years old. So he says, you know, I'm tired after 400 years. You know, and Kurgan's like still pushing him to pick up the sword. And Young-Do Kim's like, tradition. And Kurgan's like, it's all we have. And Young-Do Kim just keeps saying, no, I want peace. And the Kurgan says, I'll give you peace. And takes his head. And the quickening was supposed to be starting in the room, but then Young-Do Kim's body like flies out this window. Like it's like sucked out like a vacuum. And that was the end of the scene. So yeah, that's the scene in its entirety. And from what we have, it was shot. Like the whole thing in that, like what I just described, it was shot. Just for whatever reason, didn't end up in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And what point in the film did that come?
Good question. I don't remember offhand. I think it was a little after like McLeod's interrogated, I think, by the cops. It might have been after, actually more than that, because it was after he shows up at the hotel in Candy.
Okay.
I think the intro to the Kurgan is still in the car, and then, you know, his tradition of putting together the weapon, you know, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's what's really cool about that scene, is that in the original script, and I think Gregory Wyden talked about this in an interview they had about Highlander, where, and I love this, like his original idea for the Kurgan was this guy that's just, he's done everything in life, you know, and all he has left is this, and he respects it entirely. And I think, you know, there are scenes in the movie like the Kurgan's Wild Ride with, you know, Brenda, or like some of the stuff in the church scene where you think he goes a little off, like he's like just a maniac. But the Kurgan's a pretty smart character. You know, I think that's why Clancy was attracted to him too.
Yeah.
And when he was at the screening in Scotland a couple of years ago, somebody said, what's your favorite line? And he was like, holy ground, remember what Ramirez taught you. Because to Clancy, the thing that was intriguing about the character was, even after all these years, tradition and rules still matter to this guy who's like a maniac, but there's still that one thing that he cares about. And so I liked, when reading the Young-Do Kim scene, I was like, oh, we could have got more of that. That would have been good. It would have been good for Kurgan. It would have been good to see him kick some more butt, you know.
And it layered another sort of layer of sort of dimension on him as well, to feel that he had that, even at that point, that sense of tradition.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh.
Yeah. Hey, I know we've been told it's lost in a fire, but you never know. You know, we'll get to this later. But look, I never thought I'd be in a storage unit at Davis-Panzer finding even photos for this thing. So, do you guys remember? This is like the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2.
Yeah.
Before that thing came out, for a long time, like they were denying that Brando even shot footage on Superman 2, or if he did, that it was lost. And I kind of see this in the same way, where it's like, I just got to believe that it's out there. You know, I don't know where, I have no leads, but you never know. So.
We saw pictures long ago of McLeod, Castigier, and Detective Bedso somewhere having a drink, and I was like, okay, I'm interested, but never really knew much about it until you read the original script and all that kind of stuff. And it was supposed to be put between after the bridge scene, but before the duel, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Where Bedso's been following McLeod, so they kind of turn the tables on him. Bedso's in the dugout bar, baseball thing, and they just sort of join him and surprise him while he's getting drunk, and getting him even drunker on Castigier's Boom Boom. I could do a shot at that myself sometimes. But yeah, the scene was interesting because they were talking about being immortal. They were talking about the past. Bedso's completely oblivious. He's getting drunker by the minute. But I like the idea of seeing Castigier and McLeod having a friendship, having fun. Because for the entire film, McLeod's been the depressed man walking through life.
Yeah.
It's coming to an end and it's harsh. I like that because it was fun. we were talking about Washington's teeth, looking for Washington's wooden teeth and stuff, and Bedso's completely like it's way over his head. He's not got a clue, but it was a fun scene. It looked like it would have been a bit more comic relief that it needed in some parts, rather than going but straight to the duel. Because even though Castigair and McLeod talk about the duel, Castigair's not there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It needed something in that scene, and I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that you know, because we get glimpses of the original intent for the film, you know, in what we have, like the theatrical or like the UK version, it's like when Connor sees Castigair on the bridge, the way he reacts to him, it's like, whoa. Besides the flashbacks, this is like the first time we've seen Connor smile for the most part, like in the movie, like genuinely, you know, like he smiles around like Brenda here and there, but you know, but like that's like this is what it means to be an immortal in this universe. It's like you don't have many friends that go that far back, and they genuinely love each other, you know, like they really do. And there's a scene that takes place after the bar scene. I think it's immediately after the 1783 flashback, because like you said, it's supposed to take place. It's like the dugout scene, and then the flashback, and then they're at a playground, I think, and they're hungover. And Connor, I think, says to Castigair that there's only 3 immortals left. And Castigair says, like, what are you saying? Like, we should team up against the Kurgan? And like Connor doesn't say anything. And then Castigair says, like, Ramirez filled your head with like nonsense that sooner or later, you know, we're gonna have to fight, and that's nothing personal. That I always liked you, McLeod. And I think he does something like he like does like an imaginary trigger and goes like boom boom, and Connor leaves, and that's it, without saying goodbye, just like takes off. And because they know that night was the last night that they're gonna have, you know, the last party. That's it. You know, so it's kind of full circle, you know.
No, it's so sad.
Yeah, it's sad, but man, just depth is there, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's lovely.
I mean, when that scene happened, you realize that even though the Immortals are fighting all the time through all centuries, apart from Ramirez, you can have friendships, you can have long-lasting friendships with other Immortals.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think was explored too well in the other films. But in that one, it could have been, it would have been a nice addition.
Yeah,
I agree totally. Yeah, I'm happy we got it. I mean, because you're telling one film, telling a big story. You know, introducing this mythology and this world. I mean, like knowing what we know about the deleted scenes, regardless, it still works. You know, just having them at the bridge. You know, it still works, which is incredible in some ways. And it's thanks to both actors. It's thanks to, you know, their reactions to each other and how they get along. You know, like it's they sell it really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the deleted scene I'm going to talk about is maybe affectionately known as Connor shows Brenda his sword in the bedroom. So no euphemism there or anything, but it's literal. So so we have some again photos from that, a few photos from that scene, and script snippets, so we get the idea of what the scene is about. First of all, from the photographs, I got to say Connor's bed clothes or bed sheet sense is pretty crazy. Little kind of zebra line print thing going on there. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. I do like the nice touch, though. If you zoom in on a couple of the photos, he has a picture on his nightstand that is him and Rachel, which is very cool, and a nice little touchback to another deleted scene in the U.S. for a long time. But it's an interesting scene because I'm a big character moment fan in movies, and to me this is like a huge kind of character moment between Brenda and McLeod, where it really touches on her realizing that he's had this one great love in his life and been very reticent to, you know, give his heart since then, obviously. So it's sort of a touching scene between them, because you realize the affection he has for Brenda is genuine, and she's kind of realizing it too. And a lot of it is him, I don't want to talk about this, and him trying to put her off. So again, to me, it's a very good character scene. It really connects back to, again, what immortality means to the people you love. He had his one great love, and he's not going to do that again, but now he's found, yeah, maybe I can. And she too talks about, what it means from her perspective for immortality, and what it means for their relationship. And it's a great character scene. I think at contemplating it within the movie, my kind of film editor and pacing brain clicks in, and I'm like, it's really good, but it's sort of redundant with some of the flashbacks we've seen. I mean, they kind of tell this information without having the exposition or the conversation previously. So is it okay that it was cut? Probably. I don't think that story-wise or construction-wise, it really adds a lot to the movie. I'm a big fan of it, like I said, because I'm huge on character moments, and I think it's a great scene between Brenda and Connor. I would love to see how it was acted. Footage of it would be fantastic, because I think both actors could pull it off, because they pulled off similar scenes in other parts of the movie very well. So that would be a beautiful thing to see footage of. So there we go.
Yeah, it's an interesting scene. If you look at the photos, it's odd, because at one point Connor's in bed with Brenda, then there's other scenes where he's in the shower. And what happened was, there was half of that scene was supposed to be at a dinner table after the love scene, and they, for some reason, I guess they just decided, let's just shoot everything in bed. And so Connor shows her the sword and repeats, like, 1,000 years before the Wright brothers ever flew, right? Just like throws the line back at her. And she asks how many men he's killed, with it. And he says, like, too many except for one. And then in the original idea for the script for that scene, McLeod's covered in scars, because you don't heal, like, you live, but like you still have the visual markers of getting hurt. So his body's supposed to be totally scarred. And then Brenda notices the photo of Rachel on the table, and he says, like, it's my daughter, and our relationship's gone through a lot of changes. And I think Brenda says something like, she's old enough to be your mom. And Connor says, like, well, sometimes she thinks that she is, And so they introduce, like, they flesh out the relationship a bit more, like you said, Joe, like it's important, Yeah. And then he goes and takes a shower. And when he takes a shower, she starts asking those questions about, like, Heather and Ramirez, and about, love. And, at this point, Connor's already basically told her, like, I don't get involved. A lot of what we saw in the zoo scene. And he gets out of the shower, and she says, come here. And he says, like, why? He's like, because I want to feel your pulse. And then he jumps back into bed with her. I think that's where the scene cuts, But I agree with you, from an editing standpoint, it's hard to kind of see how it fits, how, like, it flows into everything. Maybe half the scene would work, not the other half. But yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It totally is. So the scene I want to talk about is one which I think for almost 25 years I have wanted to know the answer to. There's this one photo, actually there's a few, of Connor sitting at a table holding an orange. And this has sparked debate amongst Highlander fans for years, many of which thought it was from Greystoke.
I thought that.
Yeah, you did. And nobody could understand where this was from. And up until yesterday, I didn't know where it was from. Now I know where it's from. not knowing where this scene came from was driving me crazy. And I mean, you and I spoke about it briefly, Kareem, and similarly, you were none the wiser.
Yeah.
I contacted Gregory Wyden. He didn't know either. So there was only one person left, Russell Mulcahy. And bless him, he came through. He told me. And what was great was that he was like, oh, I forgot all about that scene. Which was amazing. So here's the thing. Now, this doesn't necessarily make sense to me. So far, for every scene that we've had, and this is why we couldn't find it in the first place, it's matched with the script. Like, you can look through the script and you can find those scenes and you go, okay, this is the scene, and da-da. Apparently, this scene, which has Christoph sitting at a table, McLeod sitting at a table, takes place just before the Boston Common scene, and is the moment when he's getting drunk, presumably telling Bassett's wife that she's a bloated warthog. So there you have it. Apparently this is a scene. He said that it was a cool scene and visually beautiful, but the film was running long and something had to give. The story didn't suffer that much, but it did add a bit more texture and scope. And I mean, the thing is, the photo, and we know this is partly because of the photographer. The photo looks gorgeous, and I imagine if imagining that as as a scene in the film would have looked beautiful. But I mean, looking through the script, all I can see is that it could, if it was a part of that script, it could literally have just been a throwaway moment, literally before you go to the fencing.
Yeah.
Thing.
It's strange that we don't have any other shots from that scene, because where's the bloated warthog? Where's where's Bassett in that scene? So there was a couple other ideas for it. There was one that said there was a scene that I think Bellwood and Ferguson had wrote for more humor, which was during I think it was Connor cleaning a window and he falls to his death and Napoleon sees him, and basically Napoleon finds out he's an immortal, and then Connor serves in his army or something like that. And I'm like, that be it? But what does Napoleon to do with oranges? It's strange, so it's an odd thing, but hey, Russell Mulcahy saying it, then
there you go.
Sure.
I genuinely can't tell you how pleased I am after all this time. Even in this thing, he was, that I love that photo so much, I had to put it on the front cover. And even in that, I said, I don't know what this scene's from. And, and finally, there we go. I mean, I still don't feel like we know maybe the whole story, but at least we have an idea of where it fits.
Yeah. Mystery solved.
I'll take it for now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And maybe one day, if those, if that footage does turn up, we'll see.
Something totally different.
Yeah.
I'd like oranges, just him eating an orange for 20 minutes.
What were you going to say, Rob?
No, the scene when that was supposed to happen, on the bridge before the duel, is last time we had a party, it got weird and that cut straight to a duel. The last time I checked, a duel wasn't exactly a party, So
not quite. So this could have been.
We did kind of miss out on the party.
Yeah,
that would have been an interesting scene.
Yeah,
but like I say, we've only seen one photograph, and it looks like it's a still photograph, not a shot from a piece of film.
Right.
Sure. Well, because
so I don't know if it was actually shot.
Well, this is it, but I think we'll get to this a little bit later as well, because there were some other photos that you guys put up, Kareem, on Facebook and things of the end of the movie where Brenda and Connor are wearing completely different clothes, and he's carrying flowers, and I asked you about this, Kareem, the other day, and that was purely a photo shoot. Yeah. But I can't imagine that they would have done set dressing and costume and makeup purely for a sort of a random promotional. shot, but you know, who knows?
Well, when you're on location though, and it's easy, I mean, like, it's just literally like a costume change, you know. And plus, again, you're making the most of the location. And I mean, Russell tells a story all the time about how many days they had Sean Connery for.
Yeah.
It wasn't much, and they shot him out. Like, they did as much as they possibly could with that time. I think it's a similar thing where it's like, we got these actors here, we've got the set photographer, go for it, you know. And also in those shots though, to your point, Grant, they did, like, it looks like they are shooting something. They're shooting film, you know. So
but there's
something
a shot where it's set in a rock and you can see the crane camera shot.
Right. So both are possible. It could have been an alternate version of the end, you know, because that went through a couple iterations, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, who knows? Yeah.
More mysteries. This is like X-Files. The more mysteries you uncover, then there's more. It's like
There's a whole subplot with Bedso that's like taken out that they shot. So when Brenda visits the Nash Antiques for the first time and speaks to Rachel, and Connor comes out, Bedso's in the background. I don't know if you can see him in the movie now, but he's supposed to be there, and he's just snooping around. Brenda shows up and he's like, oh shit, you know, he turns his back, and they talk, you know, he asks if she wants to have dinner, she leaves, and then he goes up to Bedso. Connor goes up to Bedso and starts kind of messing with him a little bit, and he's like, do you like fish, you know? And Bedso's like, yeah, like, he's just really weirded out by it, which then leads into later on in the film, like, Connor and Bedso kind of knowing each other a little bit, because at the bar scene, Castigar and Connor sneak up on Bedso because Bedso's spying on them. He's just, and Bedso's freaked out, and Connor's like, yeah, this guy's trying to pin Fazil's murder on me. You know, just like flat out tells Castigar that. It's pretty funny. And then at the end of the film, Bedso gets a delivery, and it's a fish tank from Connor. So, like, all this was shot. I mean, it doesn't add much maybe for Bedso, but you know, it's like, again, there's a humor element that they want to keep in there, and also give Connor. I always say my favorite version of Connor is how Christopher Lambert plays him in The Gathering. I just think he's just such a, like, charismatic, funny, like you want to hang with this guy. And even though I love him in Highlander 1, like, in the theatrical version, and even like the UK version, like, he's in a bad place, you know. So it's nice to see him just like, oh, that's who he is. Like, he's a fun guy, you know. Like, you know, it's neat. It's kind of cool, you know. Like, I like to believe that that's the way Rachel saw him, you know, like, growing up, and then even the relationship now is that when he interacts with her, like she says, like, what am I supposed to tell people about you? It's like, tell them I'm mortal, you know. It's like, stuff like that's great, you know.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Yeah, and I've totally forgotten that was a whole thing, the whole Bedso thing. That's more.
Was there no a part where Bedso and Brenda used to have a thing, or they dated, went on one date or something? I don't remember that from somewhere.
Oh man, I don't know. Maybe it was more of him like trying to get her to go out with her or something. Yeah,
absolutely.
You're right.
Yeah,
the scene in the garage where he's like, "You look pretty, Brenda."
Just like, yeah.
Yeah, there's more stuff with Moran, you know, the inspector, throughout the film too. There's also a scene, I think, before the computer, the researcher, you know, with the handwriting analysis, where I think Moran says to, like, Brenda, like, you're getting too close to this case and all that kind of stuff. So the police involvement is much greater. And also the sad thing is, but Moran goes into the antique store as well and talks to Rachel and looks for, you know, to, like, see like what Nash is up to and everything. And it's the first time they meet. At the end of the film, the instructions that Connor has for Rachel are to burn the place down, essentially. And that's what she does. And Moran shows up with, like, the fire department and is like, sorry, like we couldn't get anybody out. And Rachel's like, I understand. Moran tells her like, hey, there's you know, that headhunter killed somebody else, and somebody named Victor Kruger. And so that's how Rachel finds out that Connor survived and like won the prize, basically. Yeah. And I guess there's like a photo, or I think they find the silver frame, something like that, at the end of the movie. And like Moran's like, who's this? And Rachel says like, that's me. And she's like, who's the guy in the photo with you? And then she says, would you like to get a cup of coffee? And they kind of just like go off into the sunset together.
So they are the main ones, the big deals of the cut scenes. But there were other snippets of film that were cut that are still in existence, little extended moments. And I'm delighted to say that we can show some of them now. And thank you, Kareem, for that.
Sure.
Hugely. I had never seen any of these moments before, and I don't know if the same can be said for you guys, Rob and Joe. But it was, I mean, just seeing anything, I can still remember there's a tiny moment, and Rob, you probably help, you're so good with details. In the American release that weren't in the UK release, there was like literally like a fraction of a moment of something, and I can't remember exactly what it was. Do you remember what it was? It's something to do with, was it Bedso outside the apartment or something like that?
Oh yeah, when they looked outside in Brenda's apartment, he notices and he's thrown something in the ground or something. He's been a detective, it's a stakeout, you know, that kind of thing. That's the only thing I remember being slightly more than what was.
But I can remember how excited I was to see that. Just this tiny moment, because it's something new that I hadn't seen before. So you can imagine like seeing these sort of amalgamated 6 minutes of footage was incredible. There's some sort of generic stuff. There's lots more wrestling, you know, which is never a bad thing. Lots of little wrestling moments, which are quite cool. There's a little bit more of Brenda kind of surviving, you know, falling off the Silver Cup sign, and which is, you know, which is okay. But it's I can understand why you cut that, because it's more of a surprise where she turns up with the, you know, with the sort of, you know, the stuff to stop Kurgan from taking Connor's head or whatever. So there, but in amongst those, there are some scenes with a little bit more meat on them. Two in particular. The first being between McLeod and Rachel, and they just have a little bit more dialogue. Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to see this print. So there in 2012 in LA, they showed it's considered 70 millimeter, but it's a 65 millimeter internegative print. What we think it was a print that was shown to distributors before they decided to like cut it down a bit, maybe to show the film more throughout the day. So like, you know, films that are 90 minutes, obviously, they're shown more throughout the day than a film that's 2.5 hours. So you make more money that way. So there were certain things that were cut, like these extended scenes, for no reason other than I think the fact that like, well, it makes it run a little bit longer. I want this film to be like this long. This is what we need. And it's sad because I'm at the screening. This is 2012. I'm not working for Davis-Panzer. And Russell Mulcahy's there, Peter Davis is there. And they haven't seen the movie in like forever. And you have all these Highlander fans who watch it like every day. And we're watching this film, we're like, holy shit, like what is this? Like this is incredible. And we asked at the end, and both Russell and Peter were just like, wait, what? Like this is different, you know, like how could they, you know? So, but I just remember afterward and talking to Peter about it when I started working with him, like, do you remember this screening? He's like, yeah, I remember. And, you know, but is this a thing? Does it, you know, should we look for it? Should we hunt for it? And I talked to Studio Canal and they were like, well, we just remastered like the print that we have and we just have like the UK version, you know? So they weren't interested in kind of hunting down another version with just a few more minutes of extra footage, you know, which I understand like entirely. But the sad thing is we're watching this in the theater and we're seeing probably Christopher Lambert's best scene in the movie beyond like the scene where he says goodbye to Heather, you know, like it's only literally 20, 30 more seconds. But in that 20 or 30 seconds, you know, Rachel says, you know, what are you going to do essentially? Like, and I think Connor says like, he's given me an hour to save Brenda. And she's like, I understand. But Rachel's like, I'm afraid. Like, I don't know what to do without you, because she's had him her whole life. And Connor says, like, a beautiful woman like you need never worry about being alone. And he says, goodbye, Rachel, my daughter, my closest friend. It's like, and then they hug, and then she says, goodbye, Russell Nash, and all that stuff. But it's just like, Lambert's great. Like, he's really, really good in this scene. And, you know, when you hear the dialogue, hopefully one day when you hear the dialogue, you know, you'll see it, you'll feel it, you know. But he's great. He's really, really great. And yeah, of all the extended stuff, I wish that was in there most.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, it did appear, I say, so the footage we have doesn't have audio. So just for context for people. So yeah, it did look like it had a lot of weight. The other scene, of course, is the ending, a extended ending between MacLeod and Brenda on the hilltop in Scotland, or it may have been shot in Wales. I don't know. I know they were
shot in Wales,
but you know, supposedly in Scotland, and it's a little bit more playful. But again, given the drama of everything that's just happened, to have this kind of little kind of ditty, little kind of joking kind of like ending perhaps didn't fit. But yeah, again, Kareem, tell us about what you know about that scene.
Well, this is the one I probably would prefer to have left out too, because it's not that it's bad. It's just, it's more of, Christopher Lambert said in an interview for Highlander Rewatched that he got along more just in terms of like acting and everything with Beatty Edney, you know, like he felt a little bit more better with like Heather versus like Brenda with Roxanne Hart. And I think that even though like they get along fine for what's in the movie, it's not the same. There's not that level of closeness that those two actors, that Beatty Edney and Christopher Lambert, have in those flashbacks. So the ending's basically like just more of what we already saw, but she takes out wine that's from 1976, and she talks about like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest winning Best Picture, I think, and like who won the Super Bowl that year. Like she just basically flips 1783, you know, and it's fine. But then at the end, it ends with like him saying, "I love you, Brenda, with all my heart," and she says like, "I love you, my Connor MacLeod," and then it ends. And you know, again, watching this, we're just all surprised that this is happening in front of us. We're like, we didn't expect it, you know. But in hindsight, we're like, well, that might be a little too into like cheese territory, you know, for like an epic film. So,
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we can leave it out. This is the problem. Again, like going back to the example with like Superman 2, you know, there are things in the Donner cut that I love. The Brando stuff is great, but there's also stuff in the Lester cut that's just, I think, in terms of an alternate scene, better. And I think the best version of that movie are those two directors combining their work together, you know. And I kind of feel with like Highlander, it's similar, where like the theatrical version has some good stuff, the extended version has some good stuff, you know. The UK, it's like everything, you got to make some choices to make the best one.
No, absolutely. And this is the thing, as much as I'm sure we'd all love to see a cut with everything, like literally just the whole thing. Like,
Immortal.
Yeah, exactly. Just like 3 hours of just
yeah.
I like the epic cut, you know, that just sort of
No,
I'll do a Justice League thing, put it as a series and
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You go on HBO Max like they're doing with Justice League. Just like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, just put it in there. But as much as we'd love to see that, I think we can all agree that ultimately it wouldn't make a great movie. It wouldn't make a a nice kind of tight movie. Anything like what we've had up to now.
yeah. I think that if you got the deleted scenes back in and add some of the extended stuff, you would have a better idea of what Highlander could have been maybe on its initial release, where again, it's a cult movie. So you've got people going, it's imperfect, but we love it because it's perfectly imperfect, you know?
Yeah.
If you had all those deleted scenes and you had those additional, you would maybe have more of a, I don't want to say a complete movie, but a more well-rounded movie from a character standpoint.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
again, characters, you know, Joe mentioned this earlier, like character's a big deal. Character brings you in, and we're lucky that we got what we did with the theatrical, given how that film was shot and like the rush to get it out. But when we hear about, we know about these scenes, we go, you know, what if this was just solid, you know, from beginning to end? And again, I love it as it is. I love Highlander 1.
Yeah.
But when you're, but wait, it could have had this, and that. You can't help but wonder.
Even more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Okay, so Kareem, we know your pick for your favorite scene that you would love to have back in. You just sort of mentioned it would be the Rachel McLeod bit, if you could have that back in the movie. Rob, what if you had to pick one of the deleted scenes or extended scenes? What would you pick to go back in?
Well, from the deleted scenes or the extended scenes, when we were talking last time when we watched the extended stuff, there was something we were trying to match up dialogue to the scenes, and we were trying to figure out where that could have been placed. And the scene at the end when we supposed we were talking about the prize,
Yeah,
and he was having trouble explaining it to her. There was an idea of, I can't really take, I'm changed. There was an idea that I'm changed.
Yeah.
I liked that, for me, resonated with me. Like, he's lived this all these centuries, fighting, losing people, loving, losing, the pain, the all that pain and suffering all through those 400 years. And in that moment, the prize to him at that moment was peace. There was a sense of, it's over. There's nothing more. My burden is gone.
Yeah.
That seemed, and it takes away all the supernatural, I can read your mind stuff, and just gives that one person peace from all those centuries. And that, like the character moment Joe's talking about and Kareem's talking about, that seemed like the best way. I would have loved to have seen that as an ending. Like, I'm okay now.
Yeah.
And you can go on. You can bond, have relationships, have children, do the normal human experience.
Yeah.
So that's what I would have picked.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty sweet. How about EJ?
I'll preface this with saying that I'm a huge fan of director's cuts and extended cuts and all that of movies, and I would absolutely treasure, a version of Highlander that had everything included. But at the same time, I also understand that they're novelty and only like for fans, honestly. I mean, I don't think, I'm a firm believer in the version we get is the version of anything, any movie is what we're intended to see, and that's what it is.
About Blade Runner, though.
I know it isn't always that way. I mean, Highlander movies have taught us that, and I will say that I don't think I've ever seen a film series where every single movie has multiple versions of it, just like Highlander. I mean, every single one has all these different versions, and it's insane. So I think, taking that into account, it's hard for me to say if I mean, originally I was going to say the young Dol Kim scene, that would have been a good fight, but I still don't know if it would have added to the movie or just just wrecked the pacing. However, I will say now, hearing from Kareem, that there was a lot more plan for Bedso. I would love if those pieces were put in, because it, to me, story-wise, that would make a good parallel between not just Connor finding love again after all these centuries, but also in a way, I think they could have developed it more. And it's like, here's someone that, you know, he could see being friends with. He's found love and friendship again, even though he kind of had both with Rachel, but still, it's like, you know, him discovering that he doesn't have to be alone anymore as far as, you know, companionship in any form. So I think that would have been nice. I think the way those scenes, the way that are described, if this had been a pilot for a series, you know, Betso would definitely be a, you know, main character going forward, and they'd have this little love-hate relationship kind of thing going on, and all this. So I would have liked to have seen. Plus, I love the actor playing him, but I would have liked to have seen more.
Is that his name?
Yeah, and he's beautiful in everything he does. So yeah, though, if I could pick, I don't even know if any of that was shot. I can't remember if you said that, but I would love to see that subplot put back in. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, you make a really good point, because with the Moran stuff with Rachel, the Bedso stuff, almost every single like side character in the film is kind of humanized more. It's not just like the cops. It's like, no, like these characters have futures, and our leads like them enough to literally like to do things for them just because, you know, which if you were an immortal with like, again, unlimited funds, and you've had a lot of friends and a lot of them have died, it's like, and you meet this cop and you know what his job is, and, you know, Connor's not trying to make his life worse. He's actually making it better. He gets drunk, you know, him and Casker, like, they bring him into the fold. I mean, and this is their last night together, you know, as friends. It's pretty incredible. It's a neat idea. So
it's sort of a passing of the torch between, you know, I'm saying goodbye to my old friend, but I'm bringing into the loop a new friend kind of thing. I just think it would have been really cool. And I agree with Grant that, you know, having the scene with Moran and Rachel and Betso getting the fish tank, to me, would have made a better ending than, you know, I won the prize and I have no idea what that means. So thanks, everybody. You know, it was just kind of this jarring thing. And I'm like, but what is Rachel going to be okay? You know, what's happening to the other characters? We don't get to see any of that. And that would have been nice to get vignettes of that instead of a picnic in some undisclosed location.
Yeah, there was more about the prize. I'm sure they probably got this down when, you know, what we see, you know, we hear it in like ADR about what the prize is, but there was like examples of like, oh, there's two lovers, you know, or two people who love each other madly, but they never talk to each other, and like, or there's like a coup in Nicaragua or something, you know, there's gonna be like a war. And the idea is that he can kind of connect them, but he's not exactly sure how to do that. So like Rob said, it's more the mind reading thing. And so it's more like, what's the power of it? But I kind of agree with Rob in a sense where it's like, what does this mean for Connor? Like, what's he going to do with himself now? Because again, he was never prepared for that. Like, this is not what Ramirez didn't say, well, if you do win, you know, if it's you.
Here's what to do.
Yeah, nobody knew. So it's yeah. I agree.
He lost the immortal handbook, much like the greatest American hero, so he doesn't know what to do.
Absolutely. I think for me, I'm just gonna like totally wuss out here and just go. It's the sitting at the table with the orange scene. I just want to see that. I think it's just built up so much in my mind, but it just looks so beautiful. So, you know, no character stuff. Forget all that. I just want to see the flipping thing.
Want the orange? Just get him the orange.
Even if it is 5 minutes of him just peeling an orange, that's fine. I'm happy with that. I'll see it. That's really lame, but there you go. So before we wrap up, I just want to see quickly what you guys think. You know. So we've established that as far as we know, the main deleted scenes are not available. We don't know where they are, burned in the fire. You know, do they exist somewhere out there? Possibly, I don't know. But are there any scenes in the film as we know it now that you would rather had been burnt in a fire? Rob, what do you think?
Oh dear, I don't think there's anything in the film I wouldn't want, because like you say, when we were talking about the film and the franchise stuff, we always want more. I don't think I actually think anything's bad.
No.
I think the only thing I would have a problem with is in a film about immortals and killing and surviving wounds and stuff like that, and Matunas gets stabbed with a gigantic sword and survives. I think I would have cut that. I think I would have made him die. I don't think I would have made him survive that, because that just seems a bit ridiculous. And a film of just ridiculousness. Yeah, possibly that.
All right. Well, how about you, Joe?
I would, so based on what you said earlier, Grant, and this will be very unpopular with you, but I wouldn't necessarily remove something so much as change it. And I would have gone with something like ice hockey or something like that instead of wrestling at the beginning. And I understand the kind of savagery symbolism that we're supposed to get and the parallel there, but I think we could have got that with hockey. And that's probably just because I'm not a big wrestling fan. But I would have, and maybe even eliminated a sport. I would have structured that differently. So that's just me. It's personal preference. I agree with Rob that there's not a whole lot that I think should be taken away. I think it all fits. That may be okay. So going with my background, though, I'm also kind of mystified and in awe of the Silver Cup Studios construction, that it can have waist-high water covering the entire roof and not collapse. That's fantastic. I'm like, where did all this water come from? Does someone keep a pool up there or something? That part kind of mystified me. So that would be something else I would probably change or tweak if I could. So.
Nice. How about you, Kareem? You probably can't say, you know.
The honest answer would be nothing. Oh, and I'm not just saying that because, you know, Peter might be listening. Hi, Peter, in case you are. But, you know, I think that the truth is that if you take most scenes, if you remove them, just again, your original question, not what I like to see, like change or alternate. But if it's like Jenga, it's like you got to be very careful, because like you take one thing and another thing, you know, kind of falls over. And we need every little bit of character that we have in the original cut of the movie as it stands. But when I was thinking about this question, I was thinking very similar to Rob with Matunas, because if you take out the scene after Matunas is stabbed, like when he's in the hospital talking to Moran, if you just remove that entirely, you lose the headhunter aspect, like, you know, but beyond that, you don't lose much if I was going to choose something. But again, like the idea of having that scene wasn't just to have the headhunter, you know, picture. It was also to get Moran into the idea of immortality. So when at the end Rachel is with Moran and she's going to tell the story, it kind of clicks for him, like, what the hell's been going on for the last, you know, week or so. So in my head canon, that's what it is. It's like, oh, he's getting kind of bled in slowly into like the world of the immortals, and I like it for that reason. I don't want to get rid of it. So
no, that's cool. That's really cool. I think for me, it's very difficult to pick something, that I would want to see gone. I'm probably going to go with the one moment which maybe just seems just a little bit too silly, and that's the backflips. I would maybe have cut that. I still don't necessarily understand what they were going for there. And it's just one of those moments where it's so early on in the film as well. And I remember watching it with my oldest too, and they just was like, what's going on? But you know, that, I mean, it is a you know, an iconic moment, was even immortalized in the Gumball episode. Which is hilarious. If you haven't watched it, please watch the There Can Be Only One, the one. I think it's called, episode of Gumball. It's amazing, just amazing kind of like ode to Highlander. But yeah, I think for me, I think that will be it. But I love it all generally. I can't.
It's hard, yeah. When you love something that much, it's hard to. Yeah, it's like you can't.
Oh, look, thank you so much, Kareem, for coming on. It's been fantastic. Loved having you.
That was great.
It's been fascinating, really, really fascinating. So if you wouldn't mind, I think I've sort of set you up for this. Would you feel okay with sending us on our way?
It would be my pleasure. This is Kareem Michael Dimashkie on Highlander Heart saying, hold fast and don't lose your head.